Hello, happy Friday, and welcome to another LFG Live. This month we are talking about marketing and brand. We started off last week with marketing that's going to attract the right clients by knowing who you're actually targeting. And this week we are going to talk about why more leads is not the answer. And to be fully transparent here at LeMay Fusion Group, I do not do marketing internally. However, I have some amazing marketing companies that I've worked with in the past. Um, but marketing is ultimately incredibly important to what we do. So if we look at digital marketing, for example, I worked with an amazing company called MediaTune, who specializes in marketing for the automotive space. So think window tint, car audio, things like that. Absolutely amazing, fantastic team over there. Tina at Leardon Studio does home services, and I believe tag marketing does for law services. Then you think outside of digital branding, you could think of, or digital marketing, you could think of print marketing. We have Blazing Visuals and Brightside Branding that I know out in Point Pleasant, New Jersey. So a bunch of amazing companies that I work with and partner with. Um, but again, marketing is going to connect directly to sales, right? It's going to bring some folks in. So let's start off how I normally do. What am I drinking today? Funny enough, as I can apologize now, I was about 2 minutes late today. Super busy, so I didn't even get out of my desk to go make my tea. I need to get one of those kettles that I can put right here on my desk, so I don't have to go upstairs to the kitchen when I want to make my drink. But for today, I'm honestly not drinking anything. I ate my lunch at my desk and didn't bring a drink down. That's about it. So hopefully you guys are enjoying something better, an iced tea, coffee, water, whatever it is you have during your day. But nothing for me today until after this call. So let's jump right in. Why more leads isn't the answer, which sounds a little funny. More leads should equal more money, right? Should equal more customers, but that is not always the case. So if I asked you today what your biggest marketing challenge is, so many would say, I just need more leads. And look, I'm not saying that we don't need more leads. More leads is going to help in some ways, but that's not it. More inquiries, more people in the pipeline, more opportunities. And I understand why that most of the time feels true. That if it's a quantity game, if you just have more leads coming in, that's going to be even better. But that's not always the case. That's not always the case, right? In some cases, which I'll get into, the quantity isn't the only thing that matters. And I'm not going to tell you the quantity of leads isn't good, but volume alone is the wrong goal. So think about it. If you get 20 inquiries a month and you turn 5 into proposals, 5 quotes you get to send out to a customer, 5 conversations, and one of those becomes a paying client. Great. So people's gut instinct is, well, if I get 40 inquiries, then I'll get 2 clients, right? Closing 10 instead of 5. Now I'll get 2 instead of 1. Maybe. But to get 2 clients, you're fielding twice as many inquiries. You're doing twice as many proposals. You're having twice as many conversations just to get to those 2 yeses. Now, wouldn't it be better if we went backwards a little bit? And of those 40, we actually, even those 20, if we were able to close 2 out of those, right? You're still only having those 20 leads that come in, 5 proposals, and then 2 of the, or maybe 10, maybe 7, but 2 clients from that same 20. And the reason only 1 in 20 is converting sometimes, and this is what we're going to dig into today, is if our position is unclear. What I've seen is our follow-up being inconsistent or non-existent in a lot of ways, or your offer doesn't match what's really out there. You can have the best marketing platform in the world. If you don't have a good offer to put out there, it's not going to matter, right? More leads is not going to fix any of those issues I just said. It's going to amplify it. It's going to make it even harder. When you have more leads coming in and you're not tracking them or you're not following up, it's going to become more apparent because you're going to have more stuff kind of going by the wayside. So volume is going to help. Again, don't misconstrue this. Volume is absolutely going to help, but it's not the full answer. So when leads don't convert, what's actually happening, right? When leads aren't turning into clients, there are usually a few things that are going on, and we'll kind of dig into them. And again, as I always say, not everything is cookie cutter for every business. So some of this you might listen to and go, oh, that's not really relevant to me, but I always try to make things as broad as possible. And certainly when you want to talk about things more specific to your business, that's when we'll schedule that 30-minute free consultative call. So the first is wrong fit leads. These are people that are inquiring, but they're not necessarily the people that are your target market or the target people you really want to go after. And this goes back to last week. If your positioning is unclear, if your positioning is too broad, if you are a landscape company that only does pavers and you don't actually do lawn mowing, it's 2 different things, right? But if you do, I'm a great landscaper in your neighborhood, people aren't going to know to only call you for pavers and not for lawn mowing if you don't do those recurring lawn mowing services. You have to be specific. So if you're wasting your money on leads or wasting your time on leads, and that's not even for the business that you're trying to focus on, not going to be a right fit, not going to be a right match. And now you just wasted some time and you wasted their time as well, because it potentially some money. Second, and this is one that I've definitely spent a ton of time on in my career helping businesses, and that is a broken process, a broken follow-up process. Also broken tracking. So somebody inquires, where does that go? Does that go to a text on your phone? Does that go just to an email? That might work. That might work in some smaller companies. But as you grow, I'm telling you, you lose track of these things. We need a CRM. We need a CRM in place that's going to help bring those customers in. Now, I know a lot of times, especially for small businesses, when I say CRM, people just see dollar signs going crazy in their heads. It doesn't have to be expensive. Certainly, I've built out platforms like Service Titan. Not alone, of course. It's a very complex program for those of you who know, but I had an amazing team that I worked with that we built out Service Titan for companies. That's expensive. That's huge. That's detailed. Down to as small as a free HubSpot account for some smaller clients that maybe only had one or two people on board that really weren't looking for a big, expensive solution, who then were able to upgrade to the $40 a month HubSpot account. So nothing has to be super expensive unless that's what's needed for your business. So when I say CRM, please don't immediately go to, oh my God, Darius is trying to get me to spend money. There's a ton of different CRMs, but what that CRM does is allows that lead to come in and be in one central place that you can see who's touched it, when we've touched it, what the follow-up was, and be able to address the timeline. We should be able to contact these folks within a couple of minutes. That would be the goal, contacting these folks within 5 minutes of that lead coming in, because what happens if they don't hear from you? They go down to the next guy. I did this myself when I needed an electrician for something outside, and thankfully I have a bunch of electrician buddies now that I can reach out to, but I needed somebody to help me with something in my pool out back, and I went to the first guy, they didn't answer. I went to the second guy, they didn't. I didn't wait. I didn't go, I left a message for that first one, let me see. If I gave a couple minutes and they weren't getting back to me, I was going on to the next guy. So making sure we have a CRM, making sure we're actually getting back to people, but then it's also those additional touch points. Now, depending on your business, sometimes this is going to be more relevant than others, but most services business sales happen on the third, fourth, fifth touch point. If you just have it written down on a piece of paper or in your text or in your email, you're not going to remember what step we're on. So we need to make sure that we have it in the CRM so that we have our third, fourth, and fifth touch points. If you're only following up once, you're leaving a significant portion of real buyers out there. Not because they weren't interested, but life can get in the way. Right now, let's say I put an inquiry online. My wife and I were actually trying to plan our camping trip for weeks now, but every time we try, something gets in the way, right? So sometimes it's not just that they don't want your services, it's that they just got caught up in life. Follow back up. Now, what I'll say with that follow-up process too is there should be a lot of training with what that follow-up looks like. As a consumer, I've had amazing follow-up from some folks, and as a consumer, I've had terrible follow-up, meaning they followed up a lot, so much so, and in such an aggressive manner, it actually turned me off of their services. So make sure we have the CRM in place, make sure we're doing the consistent follow-up, and make sure we're doing the consistent follow-up the right way. Making sure we're doing it with kindness, with compassion, with who we want to represent as our brand, not just a pushy jerk salesperson, right? Another way or another reason that leads aren't converting is an unclear offer. If a prospect doesn't fully understand what they're buying, what it costs, what happens next, confusion can kill decisions. I know I've talked about this on some other calls where even some of my own branding went out. And when I went back and reread it, I realized I didn't put a call to action on there. Yeah, I told them what I was doing, but I didn't say call me, click here, or anything like that. That's going to lose people. That's going to lose people. They're looking at it and go, what am I supposed to do on this one? They don't know. If people aren't sure, they stall. If people aren't sure, if they don't have confidence, they walk away. To fix it, make your offer so simple to understand that they can just say it back to you if they had to. What it is, what does it cost, what do they get, and where do they need to go? What is that first step to get where they need to go? Make it so ridiculously simple. Otherwise, they're going to breeze right past your offer and go somewhere else. And then the last piece is a price or a trust. I combine those two words, price and trust. A price or trust mismatch. This is what happens when a client wants what you have to offer, but they don't trust you enough to pay your price. Now, this is a conversation that we can have for hours in your business, right? Doing market research, market study. When you're pricing yourself in a market, we have some folks that have been doing this for years. They've gained trust. They're an industry standard. People know them. They want them. You can be higher priced. But if you're brand new into a market, you may not want to be the lowest price, but you certainly may not want to be the highest price. But in any case, you want to make sure that we're doing some market evaluation. We're doing some research to understand that, because you don't want to be too inexpensive. You don't want to be too cheap. And I hate using that word when we're talking about business, but in some cases, the only reason I use that word is if we become too inexpensive, that's what people are going to look at us on. An example I'll give is, let's say a traditional industry is going to charge somewhere between 100 and 150 for this particular service, and you're only charging 50. I know myself as a consumer, I'm going to say, well, why are they only $50? Are they super new to this industry? Do they not know what they're doing? Is there some kind of scam? So the price and trust can't be a mismatch. When people understand what they're getting and believe you can deliver it, that price conversation gets easier. And when we talk about that with marketing a little bit too, that's where case studies come into play, which we'll talk about in another week or when we have the time to jump on a call together. So we're looking at these numbers, and I actually did see. It's funny that I already had this planned out. So my buddies over at MediaTune know that we're just thinking the same things at the same time, man. Because I had this planned out for at the beginning of the year, and I wrote my scripts the end of last month for all of this month. But it was certainly lovely to see on their website that they were also talking about what to track more than lead volume, or even more than clicks on social media. Oh, I got 1,000 clicks. Well, what does 1,000 clicks mean? Because last time I went to the grocery store, I couldn't buy my groceries with clicks. And when I sent clicks into the mortgage company, they told me that wasn't good enough. I'm making a joke, obviously, but what I'm trying to portray is that certain metrics that we look at are fun metrics, and they're important metrics for certain things, but they're not the metrics that are going to drive our revenue, right? So we want to look at our conversion rate. Of the leads who come in, those leads are great, the clicks are great, but of those who come in, how many become clients? I cannot give you a number what that number looks like right now. Every business is going to be a little bit different, right? So we will want to do some research. We want to look up what traditional rates are in your industry, and then we want to beat them. The goal, let's get to doubling them. Let's get to 50% higher, because we can do even better than what the average industry standards are. The average is in the top. We want to beat that average, right? So of those leads who come in, what percentage become clients? And this is your baseline. If it's below certain percentages, when we look at the industry standards, maybe 20% for a service business, but again, I'm not going to hold you to that number. We have a conversion problem, not necessarily a volume problem. The average client value. What are these ads bringing in? What is our marketing bringing in? Is it only the lowest? And again, I'm not saying that's bad, because sometimes that lowest MRC, but at a higher volume of close rate, can still, that's our bread and butter. That's the things that pay our bills. But we want to make sure we're looking at that. What is that average client spending with us? Because a business with a high average client value needs fewer leads than one with a low one. And I'm not saying any of those answers are wrong, but we have to be aware. Are we getting a little bit of the high volume or a lot of the low volume? We're a good mix in the middle, which is where I love to be. Also, let's look at our referral rate. What percentage of our new clients come from referrals or repeat business? In service businesses specifically, because you're creating a relationship with these folks, this should be a high number. This should be a good number. Now, I know I'm sorry, my allergies are killing me a little bit today. We talked a while ago about how referral business can't sustain as being the only business we have. We don't want that to trickle off. So we need new business all the time. But in a service business specifically, we should absolutely have some referral business and a lot of repeat business for sure. Okay. Now, I do recall a while ago when I was talking to somebody in a business who were using a marketing company, and I remember they were saying, my marketing is just not working. It's just not working. My revenue hasn't changed. And when I really looked at what the teams were doing, their marketing was fantastic. It was bringing in a ton of volume, which was great, right? The marketing looked great, a lot of exposure. But then when we looked at the conversion rate, that's where we were struggling. It wasn't the amount of leads coming in. It was the conversion. And when I looked at that company stuff, they didn't have a CRM. First one, boom. Actually, I mentioned MediaTune a little while ago. They now will not even work with a client who doesn't have a CRM in place, because they know they can't help that client be successful without it. They don't want to work for somebody else to set up for their own failure. But yeah, once we were able to get in, develop a CRM, do some sales training and some conversation training and cadence training on how we should be following up with these leads, the world changed for them. So here's how to get better clients and not just more of them. You have to have clear positioning. You have to have specific language, social proof that speaks directly to that client, not generic testimonials, but actual stories from clients who have done what you've done. So how I mentioned before, the case studies, and a frictionless first step. And yes, I mentioned I made that mistake before. I didn't tell clients exactly what to do once they saw my ad and wanted to sign up for any of my services. So better clients come from those things, from better targeting, clearer messages, and a stronger offer, not just from more volume. Once you have the rest of that down, more volume is excellent, but you have to be able to convert and work with what you already have through those things. So your takeaway today, what is your current conversion rate? Rough estimate. How many leads turn into clients? Or how many leads do you have turn into proposals that turn into clients? What percentage of your new business comes from referrals? And what is the number one reason leads don't convert for your business? And I love that one. And I if you are struggling in that one, I encourage you, give me a call, 732-508-0580, Dari@LeMayFusionGroup.com. Love working on that, because is it a process perspective of what does our CRM look like? Is it a training on the sales? All things I absolutely adore doing. So little call to action, pull up your last 10 inquiries that came in and how many were converted. What did the path look like? What did the strategy look like? What did our context point look like? The ones that didn't close, what was common in those? Did we have all the touch points? Did we have the way we're speaking to them set? Um, would you have handled it anything differently? And I'm certain we had some room for improvement in those things. So next week we're going to continue, of course, talking about brand, and we are going to talk about brand clarity for service businesses. Another fun topic. Brand is who we are, what we're doing, but it also helps us maintain consistency in our online, digital, and print appearance, which is important for people recognizing our brand. Actually, when you talk about brand, this is a silly one. We are my wife and I and a bunch of our adult friends are on a local Brick Township kickball league, and this is our team name, Barely Athletic Kickball Club. We meet every Friday for a doubleheader game, and I'll tell you, it is super exciting and fun to just kind of get on the field like a big kid. But yeah, we created this for our branding, so when we're walking on the team, everybody knows who we are and knows we are barely athletic. But for today, everybody, go finish your drink. I'm gonna go get mine. Take a deep breath and go lead with intention today. Thanks so much, everyone.